Hi everyone, this is Mix from Sneaks and Ball PH, and today we have a detailed review on the Adidas TMac 2 Restomod. To start things off, I am still a little bit confused on what to actually call this TMac 2 because on some sites like Adidas.com it actually says that it's the TMac 2 Restomod, which is pretty much a shortcut for restored and modified, aka a Pro in Nike terms. But on other sites they call this TMac 2 Evo, which also kind of makes sense because it is an evolution of the TMac 2. But whatever you want to call it, whether it's Restomod or Evo, it is pretty safe to say that it looks pretty similar to the original TMac 2s, but with a switch up in the cushion setup. So for this particular shoe, it was the one that Tracy McGrady used in the 2002 to 2003 NBA season, where he actually led the league in scoring at 32 points per game. That is pretty remarkable because in 2003 you did have other superstars like Allen Iverson, Vince Carter, and Kobe Bryant that could pretty much just light you up and score at will, but TMac outdid them all. I am a pretty big TMac fan, and it's actually just him and Gilbert Arenas who were the reason why I even paid attention to Adidas as a young kid, but it's just because TMac was just such a bucket and he just scored so effortlessly. He was pretty much a long and athletic 6'8" shooting guard who could pretty much shoot from anywhere, had a post game as well, and could attack the rack with the best of them. And if you need any evidence of his ability to just heat up and totally torch you, of course you have his famous 13 points in 33 seconds when he was a member of the Houston Rockets. But going back to that 2003 season, TMac was just playing off the charts. And aside from leading the league in scoring, he was an NBA All-Star, made first team All-NBA, and led the Orlando Magic to the playoffs. It was pretty amazing that the Magic did even make the playoffs that season because you pretty much just had rookie Drew Gooden and way too old Shawn Kemp and Grant Hill, who was pretty darn good but only played 29 games due to injury. So TMac pretty much lifted that team, but unfortunately they gave up a 3-1 lead to the Detroit Pistons. But I don't know if that's entirely his fault because, Doc Rivers was their coach, but neither here nor there. But when you just think of it, that team with Tracy McGrady and Grant Hill, like if Grant Hill stayed healthy, that could have been a hell of a team. But of course, we'll never know. The TMac 2 is also pretty interesting because if you see the TMac 1 and 2 side by side, you can clearly see the sort of evolution from the 1 to the 2 and see where they made subtle changes to make the shoe better. But before we start with the tech specs, just so that you can see the box, it is this black Adidas box with your TMac logo on the front. And for me, this is definitely the best signature athlete logo from Adidas. Then rounding out the box, you do have a signature here at the back and TMac written on the sides of the box. Then for the tech specs on the Adidas TMac 2 Restomod, for the traction you do have solid white rubber all throughout, and it's in the classic herringbone traction pattern. The rubber does feel pretty grippy, and as we all know, herringbone is a tried and true traction pattern, so I do think these will perform very well on court. The grooves are pretty thin and malleable, so I'm not really sure if these will be the best outdoor option, but I do think that if you were to use these outdoors, it would be doable. But of course, I will get back to you guys after I performance review these, which is hopefully pretty soon because I'm not really sure how everything's gonna go down because pandemic just doesn't seem to want to end, so I will update you guys when I can. Then for the cushion, this is pretty much the only place where I can see that they made changes to the shoe because as far as I can remember, the original TMac 2s just use a simple EVA, and they also may have had a crash pad of Adipene Plus in the heel. But they did change it up in the Restomod version of the TMac 2 because instead of a basic EVA, you now have a full-length bounce midsole. I did try these out a little bit and they did seem pretty comfortable, but it definitely didn't give me that same bounce comfort that I felt like on the Dame 5s or the Dame 3s, but instead as of now it feels pretty similar to the Dame 4, which is pretty much more subdued and low to the ground. The cushion might also need a little bit of breaking in because you do have a double-last midsole design since the upper connects directly to the outsole. That does help you get a little bit more low to the ground feel, but it also stops the foam cushion from compressing and expanding too much and giving you that springy bounce back feel. So for the cushion, I think I'm definitely gonna have to break it in a little bit, but I am happy that they replaced that basic EVA with bounce. Then for the materials, the TMac 2 makes use of a leather outer shell with a nice and padded textile inner boot. The leather on the outside does feel like it is synthetic leather, however it does feel pretty soft to the touch and seems like it would move well with your foot. You have this smooth grain leather from the midfoot to the back, while you have this perforated leather here on the toe. You also have these lines that come up from the midfoot and they are rubber, and even though it's made of rubber, those lines are nice and thin, so they don't really restrict your movement that much. It's definitely better than the TMac ones that actually had a huge rand of rubber rubber that went up to the toe, and a rubber toe cap as well. Then for the textile inner boot, it is really padded and it's just super puffy feeling, which is definitely good for comfort. However, here in the Philippines, since it's hot, it might make it feel a little bit hotter than the usual shoe, and it also makes the shoe pretty puffy. Overall, I am pretty happy with the materials because even though they are synthetics on the outside, they do feel really comfy and soft in hand. Then for fit and sizing, I did go true to size with the Adidas TMac 2, and it fit me perfectly well. I went with my standard size 10, and though it was a little bit tight at first, it was pretty much because there was so much padding in the shoe. But once that padding got the chance to mold to my foot, it fit really well. I was a little bit concerned at first because you did have an inner boot, and I thought we would have another PG4 or LeBron 17 situation where it would just be impossible to get your foot inside the shoe. But it's nice that the Adidas TMac 2 actually has a bungee on the inner sleeve to make it easier to get your foot in and out of the shoe. So for my recommendation for the sizing, I do recommend that you go true to size if you have a narrow foot or a normal width foot. Then if you have a wide foot, I do think that it'll be a little too tight for you. So I think for wide footers, it would be best to go up half a size. I also hear a lot of people say that they have an Adidas size, they have a Nike size, but for me that doesn't necessarily work because Adidas's sizing is all over the place. Like I go through to size with these and the TMac 1s. I went down half a size with the Dame 7s. I went down a full size with the D-Rose 11s. So as you can see, there isn't an Adidas size, so to speak. Instead, what you have is that Adidas has very messy sizing. Then for the aesthetic details, here on the outsole, it is pretty basic. It's all white and you have that herringbone pattern. But you do have a tiny Adidas logo here at the heel. And you can also see that blue torsion system here on the midfoot. The torsion system is basically a plastic piece that provides torsional support. And it's here at the midfoot and actually wraps up to the midsole and extends up to the heel. It is nice that they colored the torsional support in that blue because, as I said, you have a basic white outsole, and for the upper it's mostly white as well. You do have additional blue hits though with these rubber lines that go up to the toe, and this other rubber line that starts out here at the lateral side of the heel and wraps around to the medial side where it actually fades to white. Then for your branding, you do have that bounce text written here at the midfoot. You have an embossed Adidas 3 stripes on the lateral side, embossed Adidas branding here at the heel, and perforated 3 stripes on the medial side. You also have a blue stitched in Adidas logo here on the tongue, as well as that TMac logo here on the ankle collar and insole. Then for the overall aesthetics, I do understand that it looks very different from what footwear looks nowadays. But for me, I really do like how this shoe looks because it is just very simple. But it also has some interesting design elements like that blue that wraps all the way to the toe and those embossed 3 stripes on the upper. The only thing I don't like about these from an aesthetic standpoint is that the inner lining is so puffy that it makes the shoe a lot more bulky than it actually is. This would also be my favorite colorway of the shoe so far because they have released this one as well as the black one and the all-star colorways, so you had an all red one and an all blue one. The reason why I like this one is because all of the leather is matte. Because for the black one, I think the leather on the toe had a little bit of sheen to it. And for the all-star pairs, the leather on those is all glossy. And though I like my glossy leathers, I really don't think that it matches this shoe particularly well. But for this colorway at least, it gets the stamp of approval from me. Then for the price, the Adidas TMac 2 Restomod retails for 7,000 pesos here in the Philippines or $130 US. I do think it is a good price for what you get because it is a good retro, plus you have that upgraded cushion setup. I was however able to get these on sale, so I got them for around 4,500 pesos, which converts to around $90, which I think is a definite steal. So if you are eyeing this pair, I do recommend that you keep looking for sales because there is a good chance that you'll see these included in some flash sales. Then you can get these on the Adidas website as well as any of your local Adidas stores. So there you have it guys, that was my detailed review on the Adidas TMac 2 Restomod. If you liked the video, please make sure to leave a thumbs up down below. And if you have any comments, questions, or any suggestions for future videos, please feel free to leave them in the comment section down below as well. Then I'll also be leaving a link to the SNBPH Sneaker Hunters Facebook group in the description box as well. So please do join, we do talk about sneakers quite a bit over there. And that's also where I course my monthly giveaways. Then if you haven't already yet, please make sure to subscribe and hit that bell icon for notifications. It would help us out a lot here at Sneaks and Ball PH.